What's going on, everyone? Data report here for today's weather update for Wednesday, February 22nd, 2023. As you can see, the national warning and advisory map is still very active. We have a lot of hazardous conditions throughout much of the country. You can see here in the pink and purple winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories, and in these orange areas, there are still blizzard warnings that are up for this large storm system that's going to affect a large chunk of the northern portion of the country. Down here where you see this brown, those are wind advisories. There are windy conditions expected south of this system as well. Taking a look at some of the winter storm warnings, here's the one that's up in New England. And here in New England, they are calling for 6 to 10 inches of snow for much of the area. There could be isolated amounts that are higher than that, and I will show you on the models when we get to that. Taking a look here in Milwaukee area, just south of Milwaukee, there actually is an ice storm warning where up to 1/4 of an inch to 1/2 an inch of ice is possible. Winds could gust up to 40 miles per hour. Let's take a look at the latest radar picture this morning, and as you can see here, here's your cold front right here ahead of the actual low, but here's your overrunning precipitation out ahead of it. And this is just really round one that we're seeing down here in Pennsylvania back through to Chicago. Just north of Chicago is in some mixed precipitation right now. And we are going to see another area of precipitation break out from the Dakotas through Wisconsin, and that is really going to fill in. And that's where the main effects of the blizzard are actually expected in the places that are seeing the blizzard warnings. Let's take a look at Pennsylvania this morning, shall we? What's going on in Pennsylvania? As you can see here on Interstate 99 right now, it is snowing pretty good here in this camera. But I suspect, based on some radar returns that I've been watching in this area that show really high reflectivity on radar, there is likely some sleet mixing in at this point as the rain-snow line, mixed line, is starting to advance northward. You can see here the roadway is starting to become covered a little bit. Ooh, look at that truck. It's going a little too fast. You want to take it slow when you're traveling in some hazardous winter conditions. Alrighty, on the southern portion of this system, we do have the slight risk of severe weather today. There is a 2% area for tornado within this in parts of Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, and southwest Indiana. Wind will be the major threat today. It's only a 15% area, but that's your biggest threat for this slight risk. And there is also a small threat of hail across Illinois and portions of Missouri. Alrighty, one last thing to look at before we get to the models. I wanted to show you here some snowfall totals around the Minneapolis area, and you can see anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of snow have fallen. There's a 5-inch marker west of Minneapolis. Looks like Minneapolis itself, 4 inches. There's a 5.5-inch marker well southeast of the city, and yeah, so more snow is expected in that area. I'm going to show that to you on the models right now. As you can see here on this model that I'm pointing out to you, there's the lull that's setting up right in that area. Here's the onset precipitation. This is the FV3 model that I'm using. And you can see it's a little bit underdone on the cold air on the front end of this. It's a little bit too warm. There's actually some mixed precipitation, as I was showing you on that traffic camera, southwest of State College. But as I advance this, it does start to pick it up a little better, and then it starts to move northeast. Look what it does along south of the system. It does develop a pretty hefty squall line this afternoon, anytime after about 2 to 3 o'clock. So we'll have to watch that. And here's the main system breaking out now, and you can see the overrunning actually does get heavier at this point in New York State, and it really starts to fill in back behind that, back into Minnesota. Round 2 gets going, and that's where you're going to see your windiest conditions. The squall line continues east, the snow picks up in New York State, and by this evening, say anytime after 5, 6 o'clock, snow should start to break out in Vermont, and probably a mixed bag of precipitation in Massachusetts, before eventually changing over to sleet or maybe even rain in southern Massachusetts. Boston, we'll have to see how many inches of snow you can squeeze out of this before it changes over. I would say at least maybe 2 to 4 inches of snow, as it's going to come down pretty heavy, as you can see on the model here. Snow continues at moderate intensity back across the Dakotas and Minnesota, maybe even some heavier pockets at time, and the winds will really be howling tonight. Your system and event is going to end by tomorrow morning. But here in New England, the snowfall is going to continue. And you can see here, overnight tonight, the snow really gets heavy across portions of Vermont. And at this point, this is about 4 o'clock in the morning. You can see Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine, southern Maine. That is likely 1 to 2 inch per hour rates at that time. But look in central New York from Buffalo on east. You get some freezing rain and even some sleet that mixes in. And that is going to be possible even up into central Vermont, as the rain snow line is going to continue northeast. As you can see here, as we get through the day tomorrow, the lull sets in across portions of New England. Here's that second area of precipitation that comes with the actual low itself. And all that's going to do is just provide another burst of snow tomorrow evening with maybe an additional 1 to 2 inches. All right, how much snowfall are we talking? Well, let's take a look at this map. Now, this is not really the best map to use because it does count some sleet and freezing rain as snowfall accumulation, but you can kind of get a good idea from this of what we're talking about. So I would probably X out this around Detroit area. You're not going to see 12 plus inches of snow because you're going to have that mixed precipitation, but you could at least see several inches of snow, maybe up to 6 inches of snow in this area. But watch what happens in New England. You can see here a wide swath, and I'm going to zoom this in. You can see there's a wide swath of 10 inches of snow, 6 to 10 inches of snow, but there's these isolated green spots that get up to a foot of snow in the higher elevations. I do think that is possible, because as we saw, we can go back to the simulated radar here, and let's back it up even further. There are some really heavy bands. Look what happens here. Right north of the mix line, you get this 2 inch per hour band. These dark blues, that is 2 inch per hour, blinding rates of snow. You want to stay off the roadways during that point in time. Alrighty, taking a look at some of the longer range real quickly. And looking at the GFS, it does clear out behind us, but I will say this, it's going to be windy in New England. It's going to be windy in the plains as well. You get this gradient-like pattern where it's really warm down south and it's really cold up north. And advancing this as we go through the weekend, already here comes another warm-up. Look at this. A ridge builds in the plains, and I'm going to make this a little easier to see. Look at this ridge that forms. A ridge forms in the plains, and it does spread east. Then you get another system going behind it. Not a major system, at least not for the east, but quite major for the Great Lakes. You're going to get really windy conditions and some heavy rains around it. And it's not expected to be the major storm that we're seeing right now, but it's going to be very fast moving, and that's going to go up into Canada. Canada could see some major snowfall from this. And New England, yet again, could see a little bit more snow, but again, we're not talking high amounts, and it's really too early. It's only next Tuesday this system occurs to talk about the really high or whatever amounts that there could be with that. Behind that, we have to watch. There could be another severe weather threat in the south, but at that point, we're into the following weekend. Alrighty, taking a look at the 6 to 10 day outlook. You can see there's going to be above average temperatures from the I-80 corridor on south in the eastern states. That's from that ridge that is going to set up next week. West Coast, you're going to be below average, and you are also in a relatively stormy pattern in the mountains right now. The mountainous region is going to continue to pile up on the snowfall. 8 to 14 day outlook, look at the West Coast again. The West Coast continues to be below average. While much of the east is above average, with the highest above average areas being in Florida, where at times you could see temperatures up into the mid 80s. Yes, mid 80s at this time of the year. That's even warm for Florida standards. Alrighty, thank you for watching this video, and if you are in the path of the major storm today, please be weather ready and stay safe. Have plenty of gas for your generators. Don't travel if you don't have to. And if you're in the area of the severe weather, keep your NOAA weather radio at the handy. That way you can be warned if there is any warnings that go off in your area. Alright, thank you for watching, and if you like the content on my channel, hit the like and subscribe button down below. And until next time, stay safe, everyone.